What I am about to give you was never meant to be free. Andrew Carnegie paid for it with 20 years of my life. I paid for it with the poverty of my 30s, with 100 defeats I have never fully described, and with the slow discovery that I had been living as a beggar at the gate of my own mind. Let me show you the size of the thing before I explain it. There was once a young preacher in the Stockyards district of Chicago who wanted $1 million. He had no money. He had no backers. He had no name worth mentioning outside his own parish. He wanted that million for 10 years and did not get 1 cent of it. Then, in a single week, he got the whole of it, not by begging, by becoming definite. I will tell you how before this hour is finished. Now hear the claim that governs everything else I have to say. I have analyzed more than 25,000 men and women. 2 out of every 100 had a definite major purpose in life. The other 98 had none, and the 2 owned nearly everything the 98 spent their lives wanting. The name of the disease is drifting. In the next 40 minutes, I intend to kill it in you. Most who hear this will nod and change nothing, because the crowd would rather hold a wish than make a decision. Do not be the crowd. Sit still and listen as though your life depended upon it, because I assure you it does. Part 1, the 98 and the 2. Let me begin with a man I knew intimately. He was a writer of some ability. He had a magazine of his own, a fair income, a good coat, and the respect of men who were going somewhere, and he lost it. Then he found another opportunity and lost that too. Then another. He entered and abandoned more business ventures than he could later count. He trusted men he ought to have questioned. He blamed the times. He blamed the money panic. He blamed his associates, his health, his luck. He was not lazy. Understand that. He worked as hard as any man in his city. He simply worked at nothing in particular.
I want to pause for a moment and just speak to you, not as a channel, but as a friend, because something happened that I can't let pass by quietly. There are now 300,000 of us here, 300,000 people who decided this little corner of the world was worth their time. When I started, I could never have pictured a number like that. And honestly, it's not the number that gets me. It's the thought of 300,000 real lives, each of you on your own road, choosing to walk a part of it with me. I don't take that lightly for a single second. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. I'm grateful for every one of you. Oh, and if you still haven't grabbed the free auto suggestion sheet, go do that. I really think it could help you. It's down in the description.
And he did it with tremendous energy. That man was me. I tell you this at the beginning so you will not mistake me for a man who was born on the right side of this law. I was on the wrong side of it for the better part of 2 decades. And every hour I spent there was paid for out of my own hide. Here is what I learned when I finally began to measure it. In the course of organizing the philosophy of achievement, I analyzed more than 25,000 people. I asked them all manner of questions, but one question separated them into 2 nations. What is your definite major purpose in life, and what plan have you for attaining it? 2 out of every 100 could answer. 98 could not. They had wishes, they had preferences. They had a vague notion that things would improve one day. They were waiting, not working, waiting for something to turn up. I want you to sit with that number, because it is not a curiosity. It is a census of the world you live in. Nearly everyone you pass on the street tomorrow is drifting. Your neighbors are drifting. Most of the men you admire for their steadiness are merely drifting in a straight line. And now let me define the word exactly, because you will misunderstand it if I leave it loose. Drifting is not idleness. Drifting is a negative state of mind, conspicuous by its emptiness of purpose. A man may rise at 5 o'clock, labor 16 hours, refuse all amusement, and drift the entire while because his labor is not aimed at anything he has chosen. He is being carried. The current has him. He mistakes his motion for direction. Do you see how the deception works? The drifter does not feel like a drifter. He feels tired. Tiredness is the great alibi of the aimless man, and it is the most respectable alibi there is, because no one may argue with a man who is genuinely worn out. Write this down. And repeat it until it stings. Laziness plus indifference equals procrastination. Procrastination is drifting. Any habit that causes a man to put off a definite decision is drifting, whatever else he may call it. When you say, I will think it over, when you say, not just yet, when you say, when things settle down, you are not being prudent. You are drifting, and the current is taking its fee. Now, the drifter is never without an explanation. His favorite one, in my time and in yours, is that the world has run dry of opportunity. All the good chances were taken. He was born too late, or too poor, or in the wrong town, or to the wrong family. I have heard that alibi in every decade of my life, including the years when men were selling apples on street corners in cities where fortunes were being founded on the same block. Here is the truth, and it is a hard one. The non-drifter does not wait for opportunity to be placed in his way. He creates opportunity to fit his own desires and demands of life. The depression that broke this country broke the habits of men everywhere, and in breaking them, it redistributed opportunity on a scale no one had ever seen. Some men saw only ruin. Others saw an open field. They looked at the identical circumstance. The difference was not in the circumstance. It was in the aim of the man observing it. Which brings me to the sentence I most want you to carry out of this first section. Life pays the drifter its own price, on its own terms. The non-drifter makes life pay on his own terms. You are not first poor in money, you are first poor in definiteness. The money is merely the receipt, and I will tell you something further which is not comfortable. Every man is born with the privilege of being definite. Every one. It is not distributed by birth or schooling or fortune. 98 out of 100 lose it by sleeping on it, by never once exercising it, until the faculty withers the way an unused arm withers in a sling. You may build the habit of definiteness exactly as you build a strong body, through constant, systematic use. And you may lose it the same way through disuse, and nothing more dramatic than that. There is one more thing you must understand before we go on, because it explains why you cannot simply feel inspired for an evening and be cured. Definiteness of purpose closes the door of a man's mind so tightly that no negative influence in this world can break through it. Fear cannot get in. Discouragement cannot get in. The opinions of small men cannot get in. But, and mark this, it holds that door shut only so long as definiteness is followed as a policy. Not as a mood, not as an enthusiasm, as a policy governing every affair of your life. The moment a man hesitates, procrastinates, or becomes indefinite about anything at all, that door swings open, and everything he has been keeping out walks in as though it owned the place. That is the disease. Now, let us speak of the cure, and I warn you it takes less than 1 minute. Part 2, the 60 seconds that decide a life. There was a boy from the mountains of Virginia. His people had nothing. He had no standing, no capital, and no reason on earth to expect a hearing from anyone of consequence. Through a piece of work he had done as a young writer, he was granted an interview with the richest man in America. That interview lasted 3 days and 3 nights. The old man talked. The boy listened and filled his notebooks and thought he was gathering material for an article. He was not. He was being examined. At the end of the 3rd night, the old man put a question to him. He said, in effect, I want the philosophy of achievement organized and given to the common people so that a man born as I was born may know the road. It will take 20 years. I will open every door in America to you. I will not pay you $1. Will you do it? The boy answered, yes, sir. I will not only accept the commission, I will finish it. What the boy did not know was that the old man had a stopwatch concealed beneath the desk and had given him 60 seconds to answer. He answered in 29. Carnegie told me afterward, for of course the boy was myself, that had I taken longer than 1 minute, he would have withdrawn the offer without explanation. He had put that same proposition to other men, better educated and better connected than I was. They asked for time to consider. They asked what the arrangement would pay. They said they would think it over. They were all still thinking it over 20 years later, and I do not recall one of their names. Here is the law beneath that story, and it is one of the most reliable laws in this philosophy. Men who accomplish anything decide quickly and firmly. That is the major reason they are leaders. And men who fail decide slowly, if at all, and change their decisions often and easily. The world has formed the habit of making room for the man whose words and actions show that he knows where he is going. It steps aside for him almost without noticing, and it tramples the man who is still deciding, not out of cruelty, but because he has given it no reason to stop. Indecision and procrastination are twin brothers. Where you find one, look about you, and you will find the other, and between them they will hog-tie you to failure so gently that you will never feel the rope go on. Now, I do not want you to imagine that definiteness of decision is a comfortable thing. Consider the 56 men who put their signatures to the Declaration of Independence. When those men signed, they did not stake their reputations. They did not stake their comfort. They staked their necks, and they knew precisely what the penalty for treason was. Definiteness of decision always requires courage, sometimes very great courage. You are being asked for far less than those men gave. You are not asked to stake your life. You are asked to stake your economic freedom, to say what you want, name the price, and stand behind it. And most men will not do even that, because a decision, once made, may be judged. A wish never may. A wish is a safe place, and men love safe places more than they love their own lives. Now let me return to the preacher I promised you in the opening, because his story is the cleanest illustration of this law I have ever found. His name was Frank Gonzalez, and he came out of the divinity schools with an idea. He believed that if he had $1 million, he could found a school where young men and women would be taught by doing, not merely by reciting, where a boy might learn a trade and a philosophy in the same building. He carried that idea for 10 years. He thought about it. He prayed about it. He turned it over in his mind on his walks, and he told himself that someday he would find a way. 10 years of wanting produced nothing whatever. Then one Saturday afternoon he sat in his room and faced the plain fact that he had been wishing, and that wishing had bought him nothing. And he made a decision. He decided he would have that $1 million within 1 week. He did not know how. Understand that clearly, because it is the crux of the matter. He did not have a plan when he made the decision. He made the decision first. He then announced to the newspapers that he would preach the following morning on the subject, "What I Would Do If I Had $1 Million." He wrote the sermon that night. In the morning he rose, walked to the pulpit, and discovered he had left his notes at home. It made no difference. He had not been reading from notes for 10 years. He had been living the thing. He told that congregation exactly what he would build, and how he would build it, and what it would do for the young men and women of that city.
Before we go deeper, understand this. Napoleon Hill said no desire turns into money until it's repeatedly impressed on the subconscious mind. That repetition has a name, autosuggestion. I've taken the exact daily script the old masters used and put it on a single page for you, completely free. It's called the auto-suggestion sheet. Grab it and follow along for the rest of this video. The link is waiting in the description.
He spoke as a man describing a building he had already walked through. When he finished, a man rose slowly from the back of the church, walked up the aisle, put out his hand and said, "Reverend, I liked your sermon. Come to my office tomorrow morning and I will give you the $1 million." That man was Philip D. Armour. And out of that one sermon came the Armour Institute of Technology. Now weigh the 2 periods carefully. 10 years of wishing, praying, and hoping. Nothing. 36 hours of definiteness. $1 million. The idea had not improved in that week. The preacher had not become more educated, more eloquent, or better connected. The only thing that changed was that a wish became a decision, with a date attached to it. That is the whole difference between the 98 and the 2. It is not talent. It is not schooling. It is not capital or luck or the age you happen to be. It is the willingness to stand up, name the thing, name the day, and refuse yourself the exit. You have been thinking it over long enough. Thinking it over has buried more able men than whiskey and war combined. Part 3. How a purpose is fixed in the mindy. Want to tell you now about a man who stepped off a freight car in Orange, New Jersey, dressed like a tramp, because he had ridden there as one. He walked into the laboratory of the greatest inventor of the age and announced to the staff that he had come to see the chief. Asked what business he had, he said plainly that he had come to go into business with Edison as his partner. Everything about the man argued against him. His clothes argued against him. His empty pockets argued against him. Every sensible person in that building knew he was a fool. Edison saw him anyway. He said later that the man before him looked like an ordinary tramp, but that there was something in the set of his face which said he would get whatever he had come for. Edison gave him a job at a nominal wage, sweeping floors and handling small errands. Now here is where nearly every man alive would have surrendered without ever noticing that he had. Months went by. Nothing happened. A year went by. Nothing happened. 5 years went by, and to every eye in that laboratory he was still a minor clerk in a business suit, no nearer partnership than the day he arrived. But he had not come for a job. He never once let his aim slip down into a smaller shape. In his own mind, he was already Edison's partner, and he was simply waiting for the world to catch up with a fact he had already settled. Then the Edison dictating machine came out of that laboratory, and the salesmen would not touch it. They saw no future in it. They were not interested. And there stood one man in that entire organization who was ready, who knew the machine, who had prepared for exactly such a moment for 5 years, and who said he could sell it. He was given his chance, and he sold it so thoroughly that Edison gave him a contract to distribute it across the nation. The slogan of the enterprise came to read, "Made by Edison and installed by Barnes, Edwin C." Barnes rode into that town in a freight car and rode out of it a wealthy man, and he did it with no advantage on earth except the refusal to hold two aims at once. Take the law out of the story, for it is the entire lesson of this section. Barnes had no alternative. He did not say, "I will try this, and if it does not come off in a year, I shall go into something else." He burned the ships behind him. He put himself in a position where he must either win or be destroyed. A purpose that keeps an alternative in its back pocket is not a purpose at all. It is a preference. And the mind knows the difference even when the mouth does not. Now, how do you fix such a purpose in your own mind so that it works upon you day and night, whether you attend to it or not? I will give you the method exactly as I have given it to men who took fortunes out of it. 6 steps. Do not improve upon them. Do not perform 4 and neglect 2. And then tell me the philosophy failed you. First, fix in your mind the exact thing you intend to possess. If it is money, name the sum. Not a good living, not enough to be comfortable, a figure with digits in it. The mind cannot be aimed at a fog. Second, determine exactly what you intend to give in return for it. There is no such reality in this universe as something for nothing. Every man who has ever tried to collect without depositing has been presented with the bill eventually, and it always carries interest. Third, establish a definite date by which you intend to possess it. A purpose without a date is a daydream in working clothes. Fourth, create a definite plan for carrying out your desire, and begin at once to put that plan into action, whether you feel ready or not. You will never feel ready. Readiness is a sensation that arrives after the work begins, never before. Fifth, write the whole of it out, the thing, the price you will pay, the date, and the plan in a clear and concise statement in your own hand. Sixth, read that statement aloud twice each day, once upon rising and once just before you sleep. And as you read it, see and feel and believe yourself already in possession of the thing. Now let me explain why the 6th step is not sentiment and why I will not let you skip it. Any idea, plan, or purpose may be planted in a man's mind through repetition of thought. That is not a theory. It is the plainest fact in this philosophy. Whatever dominates your mind attracts to itself its own relatives, other thoughts of its kind, until it grows into the motivating master of the man who houses it. Your subconscious mind will act upon instructions that carry feeling. It makes no distinction whatever between a constructive instruction and a destructive one. It will translate a thought driven by fear into physical reality just as faithfully and just as promptly as it will translate a thought driven by faith. Consider what that means. Most men have been giving themselves orders their entire lives. I never get the breaks. I am not the sort who gets ahead. It is too late for me. repeated morning and night with genuine feeling for 30 years, and every one of those orders has been carried out to the letter. You are not being asked to begin using this law today. You have been using it all along. You are being asked for the first time to choose what you say. Which brings me to the creed. Write these commitments out, sign your name beneath them, and speak them aloud once a day until your own voice believes them. 1. I have the ability to attain the object of my definite purpose, and I therefore demand of myself persistent, continuous action toward it, and I promise here and now to render such action. 2. The dominating thoughts of my mind will reproduce themselves in outward action and gradually transform themselves into physical reality. I will therefore concentrate 30 minutes daily upon the man I intend to become until I hold a clear picture of him. 3. Any desire I persistently hold will seek expression through practical means. I will therefore devote 10 minutes daily to demanding of myself the development of self-confidence. 4. I have written down a description of my definite chief aim, and I will never cease trying until I have built the confidence necessary for its attainment. 5. No wealth or position may long endure unless built upon truth and justice. I will therefore engage in no transaction which does not benefit all whom it affects. I will induce others to serve me because I am willing to serve them, and I will cause others to believe in me because I believe in them and in myself. Say it aloud. Say it where you may hear your own words, for words that never reach your own ear never reach anything deeper either. One warning before we leave this section, and it is the warning most men need. The jack of all trades is master of none, and the man with 5 aims has none. Concentrate the whole of your effort upon one definite chief aim. Scattered energy is only drifting, wearing the costume of industry. It perspires, it hurries, it looks magnificent, and it arrives nowhere. And do not wait until you are certain the plan is the right one. Hear me carefully on this, because it has freed more men than any sentence I know. A weak plan applied with definiteness will beat a sound plan applied indefinitely. Weak plans have a way of becoming strong when they are definitely applied. If you cannot always be right, you can always be definite, and definiteness will correct you far faster than hesitation ever will. Part 4. When the plan fails and the purpose does not during the gold rush days, an uncle and his nephew went west with picks and shovels and the ordinary hope of ordinary men. They dug, and by a piece of fortune that comes to very few, they struck one of the richest veins of ore in that part of Colorado. They covered the find, went home to Maryland, and told a few relatives and neighbors what they had. Money was raised, machinery was bought, and shipped, and hauled out over the mountains at considerable expense. The first car of ore was mined and sent to the smelter, and the returns proved they had one of the richest mines in the state. A few more cars would clear the debts. After that would come the profits, and the profits would be enormous. Then the vein disappeared. They had come to the end of the rainbow, and the pot of gold was no longer there. They drilled on a while. They drilled desperately, and at last they quit. They sold the machinery to a junk man for a few $100s and took the train home.
Quick one. If you want the money attraction law to prove itself to you fast, the 14-day money magnet protocol is designed to attract your first $100 in 2 weeks, or you get every cent back. Zero risk, real evidence. It's the second link in the description. Go grab it right now.
Now the junk man was no fool, but neither was he a mining expert, and he knew it. So he did the one intelligent thing available to him. He called in an engineer to look over the mine and make a few calculations. The engineer's report was that the project had failed because the owners were not familiar with fault lines. His calculations showed that the vein would be found again 3 feet from where the 2 men had stopped drilling. That is precisely where it was found. The junk man took millions of dollars in ore out of that mine because he had the sense to ask for counsel before he gave up, and because 2 men before him had confused the end of their patience with the end of the gold. The nephew's name was R.U. Darby, and I want you to have the second half of his life, because that is where the lesson was actually paid for. Long before the mine, when Darby was a boy, he worked at his uncle's mill. A small girl came in one afternoon and stood in the doorway. The uncle asked her what she wanted. She said her mother had sent her for 50 cents that was owed. He told her he had no 50 cents and ordered her home. She did not move. He went on with his work. And after a time he looked up and saw her still standing there. He shouted at her to get out before he put her out. She did not move. He seized a barrel stave and started toward her with murder in his face. And that child took one step forward, looked straight up at a grown man twice her size, and said in a voice that did not shake, "My mama's got to have that 50 cents. He stopped. He stood there a moment. Then he reached into his pocket, took out $50, and put it in her hand. Darby never forgot it. Years afterward, having lost a fortune 3 feet from gold, he went into the selling of life insurance, and he told me that every time a man tried to bow him out of an office without buying, he saw that child standing in the mill door with her eyes blazing, and he said to himself, "I have got to make this sale." He sold more than $1 million of life insurance a year on the strength of it. And he told me plainly that the better part of all the sales he ever made were made after people had said no. Now take the law out of both halves of that man's life, because it is one law. Failure is a trickster with a keen sense of irony. It takes particular delight in tripping a man when success is almost within his reach. Not at the beginning. At the beginning, a man expects hardship and braces for it. Failure waits until he is tired, until the vein thins, until it seems reasonable to quit. Then it strikes 3 feet from gold and calls itself common sense. Here is how the man of definite purpose escapes that trick, and I want this distinction burned into you because everything in your life turns upon it. The man who moves with definiteness knows the difference between temporary defeat and failure. When his plans fail, he substitutes other plans. He does not change his purpose. He perseveres, and eventually he finds a plan that works. The drifter does the opposite. When his plan fails, he abandons the purpose and keeps looking for a better plan to attach to a purpose he no longer holds. That is why he is always beginning again, and always beginning smaller. Let me give you 2 men who understood the difference. There was a manufacturer of motor cars who called in his engineers and told them to build him an engine with all 8 cylinders cast in one block. They said it could not be done. He said, "Produce it anyway." They went to work. 6 months passed. Nothing. Another 6 months, nothing. Every plan they tried failed, and every time they came back to him, the answer was the same. "Go on. I want it, and I will have it." A year went by. Still nothing. Then, as though some barrier had been quietly removed, the secret was discovered, and Henry Ford had his V8. He had changed engineers, methods, materials, and calculations 100 times. He never once changed the purpose. And there was a country clerk with an idea so simple that every man he told it to laughed in his face, a store where no article would cost more than a nickel or a dime. He was informed by his betters that no such business could survive, that no supplier would deal with him, that the whole notion was beneath the dignity of trade. They laughed at F.W. Woolworth until the receipts began coming in, and then the laughter stopped very suddenly, as it always does. There is one more thing to be said here, and it is the part men most wish to skip. The price is always paid in advance, never afterward. I speak of rendering more and better service than you are paid to render, and rendering it in a pleasant spirit. There are 3 parts to it, and all 3 are required: the quality of service you render, the quantity of service you render, and the spirit in which you render it. For a man may do fine work in a sullen temper and destroy the whole of its value in the doing. Every man who has ever been advanced past his fellows was advanced because he was already doing the work of the higher position before anyone thought to give it to him. There is no other way it happens. The world does not promote a man and then wait to see what he becomes. It looks about for a man already behaving as though the place were his, and it hands him the title he has been quietly earning. And when adversity comes, and it will come, for life grants no man immunity from it. Remember this, precisely as I state it, without enlarging it. Every adversity carries with it the seed of an equivalent benefit. The seed, not the flower. I have never said that every misfortune is a blessing, and I will not say it now. I say that within the circumstance there is a seed, usually some piece of knowledge, some idea, some opportunity that could not have reached you except through the change the trouble forced upon you. But a seed left lying on the ground rots. It must be seen, taken up, and planted and worked. Darby's mind did not enrich him. What he did with the memory of it enriched him. Part 5. Making it permanente. Come now to the law which frightens the drifter and serves the non-drifter, though it is the same law, and it treats them both with perfect fairness. Nature maintains a balance in all things. The stars keep their places. The seasons come and go with precision. An acorn never produces a pine, and the seed of a pine never produces an oak. Behind all of it, there is a law of rhythm, which fixes and makes permanent whatever is habitually repeated. Emerson called it the law of compensation. I have called it hypnotic rhythm. Whatever name you give it, its operation upon a human being is this. Nature takes the dominating thoughts and habits of a man and makes them permanent. No man is clever enough to dodge it. You may no more evade it than you may evade gravity by disapproving of it. Understand what that means in both directions, for it is entirely impartial. If a mind fears poverty, that law will fix the fear, and the fear will fix the poverty, until the man's condition is as settled as his opinion of it. That is why I have said that poverty is a disease nature makes it so, by fixing permanently the thought habits of every man who accepts want as unavoidable, and through that identical law, nature will fix permanently the thoughts of a man who demands opulence and expects it. The law does not consult you as to which use you will make of your mind. It only insists that you make some use of it. There is no third choice, no refusal, no neutrality. You are using this law at this moment on something. The only question ever open to you is what? Now the hard word, and I give it to you because I would be a coward to withhold it. Repeated acts harden into habit. Habit hardens into character. And there is a point beyond which the habit of drifting has been so thoroughly fixed that it can no longer be broken by the man who has it. Beyond that point he may struggle like a fly in a web, and every motion binds him tighter. I do not know where that point stands in your life. Neither do you. No man is ever notified. That is the entire reason the decision must be made tonight, and not upon some more convenient evening when your affairs have settled and your mind is clear. Your affairs will not settle. That is what affairs are. Now, since the law fixes whatever dominates a mind, the question of what is permitted to dominate your mind becomes the most practical question in your life. And that brings me to environment. One's associates are the most important part of one's environment. Not the town you live in, not the house, not the trade, the minds you stand nearest to day after day, whose thoughts leak into yours whether you consent or not. Here is the difference. Plainly stated, the drifter permits people to attach themselves to him on their terms. Whoever wishes to be near him may be near him. He calls this being agreeable. The non-drifter chooses his associates with care and permits no man to come into close association with him unless that man brings some definite mental, spiritual, or material benefit. I am aware how that sounds. I have been told it is selfish. It is not selfish. It is self-determination, and it is the plain duty of any man who intends to be of use to anybody. A man who allows his mind to be furnished by whoever wanders in will shortly have nothing in it he chose, and nothing worth giving away. Guard particularly against those who traffic in discouragement, the men who greet every plan with a reason it cannot be done, who repeat gossip as though it were news, and who are made comfortable by your smallness. They do not intend you harm. That is precisely what makes them dangerous. Their poison is administered in a friendly tone at close range over years. Then, having cleared the ground, build deliberately. The most effective environment a man may have is one he manufactures. A friendly alliance of chosen minds, working in a spirit of harmony toward a definite end. I have called it the mastermind. Each man brings to it knowledge. experience, or plan suited to the purpose in hand, and the alliance produces a power no one of them possessed alone. Carnegie built an empire of steel while knowing next to nothing about the making of steel, because he surrounded himself with a score of men who did. You need not know everything. You need to be definite, and to choose well who stands beside you. One caution before I release you, and it concerns the character of your aim. Plans built upon unjust or dishonorable motives may bring a quick return. They do not bring an enduring one, because enduring success must reckon with the fourth dimension, time. Time is the enemy of injustice and the friend of justice. The young and inexperienced mind mistakes a temporary gain for a permanent one, seizes the profit, and neglects to look ahead at the penalty which follows as certainly as night follows the day. Be definite. But be definite about something that will still look well to you in 20 years, standing in the full light. And now let me close the circle I opened at the beginning of this hour. I told you that I drifted for the better part of 2 decades. That was true. And I will tell you something else that is equally true. I never entirely stopped drifting on the smaller things. I drifted on minor whims and lesser endeavors all my life. What saved me was one thing only. Beneath all the wandering, there was one definite major purpose, the organization of a philosophy of achievement for the common man, and that purpose was strong enough to restore my courage and set me on the road again every single time I was beaten. That one aim is the entire difference between the man who wrote these books and the man who very nearly did not. You do not need to become perfect. You need one purpose large enough to keep picking you up. Final target tonight. Before you sleep, take a sheet of paper and a pen. Write what you intend to possess. Write what you will give in return for it. Write the date by which you intend to have it. Write the first plan, and if the plan is poor, write it anyway. A weak plan definitely applied has made more men than a fine plan waited upon. Sign your name beneath it, as you would sign a note at a bank, because that is exactly what it is. Then read it aloud, morning and night, until your own voice believes it, and after that, until the world does. And strike one phrase out of your language altogether. I'll think it over. That phrase has buried more able men than whiskey and war together. It is the drifter's national anthem, and it is sung in a very reasonable tone. There are 2 men in 100 who make life pay on their own terms, and 98 who take what is handed to them and call it fate. The difference is not talent. It is not schooling. It is not the family you were born into or the years you have already spent. The difference is a decision, one decision, made without an exit and never retreated from. The door of your own mind is standing open tonight. Definiteness will close it against every fear and every discouraging voice that has been walking in and out of you for years, and it will keep it closed as long as you hold the policy. But no man is told the hour that door swings shut for the last time, so do not thank me for this lesson. Do not repeat it to your friends and feel improved by it. Go and be definite tonight, on paper, with a date on it. The rest of your life is waiting to hear what you decide.
Everything I'm teaching you comes down to one promise. You can become rich, but only once your mind is wired to attract money instead of repel it. And the fastest way to start that rewiring costs you nothing. I've put the exact daily script that programs your mind for wealth onto one free page. Go to the description right now and grab it. That's your first real step out of broke thinking and into the mind that pulls money in. Links in the description.